Okay, does the Black Staff have any powers that relate to the dead?
Yeah, other than making people dead? Really, that's kind of the point. The staff itself, what it really does is it keeps Ebenezer sane while he's doing insane things. So lucky him, he gets to be treated to, a hideously guilty conscience and nightmares and so on later. But that's better than later being like, which is sort of the other option if you're going to go around using magic like that.
Good morning, Jim. How you doing today?
Good morning.
My question is, are any of the characters in the Dresden books based on anyone that you know, or are they based on yourself?
Are any characters in the Dresden books based on someone I know, or on myself? There's a few. Bob the Skull is kind of my inner 14-year-old. Who at the time would never, ever, ever have said or thought the things that Bob the Skull says and thinks. So it's kind of fun. Let me think. Shiro was based on an actual martial arts teacher I had. Well, him and his right-hand guy at their dojo. His name was Seiyu Oyata, and he's a really, really interesting guy. He was the guy who actually was a descendant of the last king of Okinawa, and was trained by Chinese monks because the Yakuza had moved into the power vacuum at the end of World War II, and it threatened his family. And the monks trained him to fight so that he could defend himself against a Yakuza assassin, and he killed half a dozen of them. And the Yakuza said, "It's getting expensive to do business here. We want you to work for us." He said, "No, I just want you to stay off my street." And the Yakuza said, "All right, that's more profitable." That was based on a couple of actual guys. Who is more like Mr. Miyagi than he has any right to be. The other character who is based off somebody who is actually real was Anna, who died in White Knight. Anna was a woman who, I was at the Whedon convention, and they were doing a charity auction, and I auctioned off a horrible death in the Dresden Files to whoever won the auction, and she wound up donating $3,000 to the Children's Cancer Research, and then I killed her more. Those are the ones who are based off of real people. Everybody else is just sort of, I don't really base anybody specifically off someone and go, you need to be in this novel. I draw influence from the people who are around me. My wife Shannon is probably most of my female characters. Everybody, which the first reaction to that is everybody goes, "Oh," and then I go, "Yeah, you know how many female villains are in my book?" But other than that, no, not really.
In rather a complete change of pace, Codex Alera. So there's a lot of, clearly there's some Germanic influence, what with Calderon being a bunch of German names, and of course they're, Roman. So just because I've been wondering about it, what kind of language do you think they speak? How close is it, do you think, to English, which is after all derived from both Latin and Germanic roots?
Well, the problem there is that for them, Latin never turned into a dead language. They were just kind of using it all along. And they had a couple of thousand years. I don't think they wound up speaking very much like us, or very much like the Romans. I don't think the Romans would have understood them either. The reason they got developed that way was because when I went and researched the Lost Legion, I found out that half of them were Roman legionnaires, and about the other half of the legion was German mercenaries. So I said, okay, so we've got Germans and Romans, so when they actually built the society, I said, let's have this kind of bifurcated society with these big cosmopolitan city centers like the Romans loved. But then it broke out into the countryside, into the German freeholds that were prevalent throughout the Middle Ages. So, But yeah, they kept using the language and never really changed it, and they had to make up new words. That's always good for your language when you've got to make up new words.
All right, with changes, I apparently am not the only one that got a defective copy. There's not an actual end to it. You need to write more.
Okay. Here, we'll do it right here. Harry Dresden set out to rescue his daughter, even if it cost him his life. It did. The end. See? It's not hard. You too can be a best-selling writer.
Hi. I just want to know, why did you give Sonia a girl's name? Because it is traditionally a girl's name.
It depends on which part of Russia you go to. But we could ask Sherilyn Kenyon. She's the one who wrote the writer's naming guide that I pulled it from.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for all the calls I got at 3 a.m. because my name happens to be Shaw, and people finished reading Codex Alera, that book, around that time. But my question was, obviously we have the TV series and we have, the RPG, but where do you see your works going in the future? Like, do you see, maybe discussing the movie deals or video games or whatnot?
As far as movie, TV stuff goes, Lionsgate still holds the rights to that for another, let me think here, about a year and 9 months and 20-something days. Not that I'm keeping track or anything. But they still hold the rights for a while, so that won't be happening, in the immediate future. As far as where it's going, man, I just write novels, man. I've got about 20 case books in mind, like the ones we've seen so far. There might be a few more or a few less, depending on whether or not my kid goes to grad school. I'm honest, I'm not complicated. And then we'll have a big old apocalyptic trilogy at the end. I think I've said it before, but if you haven't heard, the titles of the last 3 books are going to be Stars and Stones, Hell's Bells, and Empty Night. Because all of those phrases mean something, even if Dresden doesn't know that they do. And again, that was one of those things that started in book 1 that doesn't come out until the end. So there you have it.
Hi, Jim. Welcome to DragonCon. Quick question. Why is he always wearing a hat on the cover of all the books?
Check with the art director at Ace or at Rock. They were of the opinion that Wizard Staff plus Fedora perfectly said Wizard Private Eye, visually speaking. So that's why they gave him a hat. I swear I'm going to have to give him a hat one of these days, or maybe I need to have him spend the next several books being given a hat at the beginning and then figure out some hideous way to destroy it.
Badges are cool.
No way, man, I'm not wearing a hat. Why? Because when you're in danger, when the hat gets knocked off, that's when you're out of fate points, man.